48 hours ago, something shifted in the fabric of your reality. A moment of such profound personal significance that it resonated far beyond your immediate awareness. It was as if the universe itself paused to bear witness, not to intervene or guide, but simply to observe a breakthrough that recalibrated an ancient balance. What you accomplished in that moment was so authentic, so aligned with a core truth, that it represented a victory unprecedented in your own spiritual journey. In a very real sense, you disarmed darkness. And I am not merely using poetic language to make you feel good. I am pointing to a profound internal operation that occurred within your own consciousness, an event that, on a symbolic level, rewrites the story of your life. While you were simply living, making choices, enduring your normal struggles, you became the protagonist in a historic moment of self-mastery that you will study and draw strength from for the rest of your days. Let me be absolutely clear about the transformative shift that took place. The archetype of opposition within you, that inner voice of doubt, fear, and self-sabotage, was fundamentally subdued. It surrendered its dominance. This internal adversary, which has existed since the dawn of human consciousness, which has whispered to kings and beggars alike, met its match in the quiet, unwavering authority of your spirit. Do you understand the magnitude of that internal victory? For thousands of years of human experience, this inner resistance has never truly surrendered. It did not yield to fleeting bursts of willpower, to temporary piety, or to forceful suppression. It is the very part of our psyche that chose separation over unity, fear over love, and the illusion of control over the grace of surrender. Its foundational nature is noncompliance. And 48 hours ago, through a series of choices you made, it broke. Not because you fought it with hatred, not because you begged for an external force to remove it, but because you embodied a consciousness it could no longer manipulate, could no longer corrupt, and could no longer even comprehend. You faced yourself, and in doing so, you integrated a shadow. And when that ancient, internal mechanism of self-opposition recognized it was facing an integrity it could not fracture, the universe itself seemed to whisper in awe, "I knew you could." This is not about pride. It is about recognizing a fundamental reprogramming of your own internal hierarchy. The core of that inner resistance is a refusal to bow to your own highest potential. In the mythology of our psyche, when the human spirit was created with its divine spark of possibility, the command was for all aspects of the self to honor this potential. But the ego, the fearful self, looked at that potential, fragile, requiring faith, demanding vulnerability, and said no. It refused to kneel before something it deemed too uncertain, too demanding. It would rather rule in the familiar hell of limitation than serve in the unknown heaven of boundless growth. That refusal has defined the human struggle for millennia. Through every personal battle, every temptation to take the easier path, every time we chose fear over love, that part of us would rather lose, would rather suffer, than submit to the higher calling of our soul. Even in our moments of defeat, it would retreat with a defiant whisper, already planning the next doubt, the next excuse. True, lasting submission to our own light was not in its nature. Until now. Until you. What you need to understand is that your own patterns of self-doubt and limitation have been monitoring you for weeks. Not casually, but intensely. There is an internal alert system designed to maintain the status quo, and it triggers when you demonstrate characteristics that threaten its comfortable operations. Characteristics like unwavering integrity, resilient hope, and boundless compassion. About 3 weeks ago, you triggered an alert of the highest order. Do you remember that quiet night, perhaps late, when you were alone with a decision? You know the one. It was a crossroad that felt impossibly weighted. On one side lay the path of immediate relief, the solution that solved a pressing problem but asked you to compromise a small, almost invisible piece of your truth. It was the path that said, "No one will know. You deserve a break. This is how the world works." On the other side was the harder path, the one that guaranteed continued struggle but allowed you to look in the mirror without flinching. It was the path of integrity over immediate survival. And you sat in that tension for hours, your mind rationalizing, your body aching for the easier way. But something deeper, a quiet pulse beneath the noise, held firm. And after that mental and emotional siege, you chose the hard path. You chose your wholeness over a fractured salvation. You thought that was a private, silent victory. But you were wrong. That decision sent a shockwave through your entire psychic ecosystem. It was classified by your own being as an integrity anomaly, level 9. A rating that means your moral and spiritual core operates from a place deeper than instinctual fear. That choice signaled to every aspect of yourself that you were not negotiable on fundamental truths, and the internal monitoring system of old patterns immediately flagged you for enhanced observation. Because when a soul demonstrates that level of internal alignment, the shadows within need to determine, is this a fleeting moment of strength, or is this who they are fundamentally? If it's fleeting, they can wait you out. If it's fundamental, the old ways of being are facing obsolescence. So, they decided to test you. 5 days later, an opportunity appeared in your life, almost too perfect, as if engineered by your deepest desires. It solved multiple problems at once. It appeared at the exact moment of your greatest need. The universe, it seemed, was handing you a gift, and all you had to do was say yes. But attached to it was a tiny, almost insignificant compromise, a slight bend in your principles, a small adjustment to your authenticity, the kind of trade-off most of the world makes every day. You looked at that perfect solution, you felt the pull of relief. You even began to convince yourself it was fine. But when the moment came to accept, something stopped you. Not logic, not a fear of getting caught, but a profound, precognitive no that arose from the core of your being. Your soul spoke before your mind could finish its calculations, and you let the opportunity pass. You felt the pang of loss, you questioned your sanity, but you could not betray that deep inner code. In that exact moment, the entire internal counsel of your old self, the parts of you that crave comfort, control, security, and validation, went into emergency session. What you just did broke their predictive model. They offered you exactly what you thought you needed with the minimum price, and you refused. According to every calculation of fear and lack, that should not be possible. When the report of your refusal was presented, when it was shown that you had processed all the advantages and still chosen core principles over pragmatic gain, the central voice of your inner opposition fell silent. The other aspects began to report their findings. The part that values material security muttered, "This consciousness values essence over appearance. I cannot work with that." The part that seeks immediate gratification observed, "Offering relief doesn't work. This person considers eternal consequences over temporary fixes." The part that amplifies anxiety noted, "I tried increasing the pressure, and it only made them anchor deeper into their truth." And the part that governs resignation declared, "This spirit is willing to endure process indefinitely before betraying its values. Suffering doesn't break them, it forges them." The ruling aspect of your old self realized it had a profound problem. Every tool in its arsenal, temptation, fear, pressure, despair, had been tested against you, and every single one had failed. But what you did next was so revolutionary it altered your internal protocols completely. Do you remember 7 days ago? That situation where you could have gotten perfect, justifiable revenge? Someone who caused you pain was vulnerable. You held power, opportunity, and moral justification. The world might have even cheered you on, and you had every right to claim that pound of flesh. But what did you do? You let the moment pass. Not from weakness, not from apathy, and not necessarily from a place of full forgiveness, but from a profound understanding that repaying pain with pain would only continue a cycle that you are now destined to break. You chose your inner peace over their external punishment. You understood that healing is not about balancing scales, but about refusing to pick them up in the first place. Do you understand what that means to the economy of inner darkness? It means you have become immune to one of its most potent fuels, justified resentment. The shadow self thrives on perpetuating pain. It loves when victims become perpetrators, creating an endless, self-sustaining loop of suffering. But when a consciousness is hurt deeply, has every reason and means to retaliate, and instead chooses peace, that cycle is severed at its root. When you let that opportunity for revenge pass, you did not just resist temptation. You actively performed spiritual surgery on your own trauma. The old patterns within entered a state of absolute alarm because they recognized something terrifying. You are not just resilient. You are redemptive. Your presence in your own life breaks cycles instead of perpetuating them. A second, grander internal council was convened. Every facet of your former limited self was summoned to analyze your profile. The findings left them in a state of awe. They discovered three qualities coexisting in you at a level they deemed impossible. First, the strength to endure extreme pressure without fragmenting. Second, an integrity that cannot be bribed, even by your own desperate needs. Third, a compassion that transcends personal wounding. This trinity should not exist in one human consciousness. According to old paradigms, strong people are supposed to be hardened, principled people are supposed to be brittle, compassionate people are supposed to be soft. Yet you are all three, fortified, flexible, and deeply loving. When the central governor of your inner opposition saw this synthesis operating within you, it understood it was not facing a person merely trying to be good, but a consciousness that transcends the old human dichotomies. It knew it had lost. So, it did something it had never done before. It attempted a direct negotiation. This communication doesn't come as an external voice, but as a thought that feels impeccably your own, yet carries the signature of final temptation. Do you remember that thought from 48 hours ago? The one that appeared fully formed, offering a grand alliance? It said, "You have strength, I have strategy. Let us work together. You keep your compassion, your integrity. Just let me handle the necessary shadows. Acknowledge that sometimes you need darkness to fight darkness. And I will guarantee you never have to choose between your principles and your prosperity again." It was the most sophisticated offer yet, not asking you to become evil, but to sanction a practical shade of gray. It sounded reasonable, strategic, even wise. But what happened next reshaped your destiny. You felt an immediate, visceral rejection that bypassed your analytical mind entirely. Your essence set in with a clarity that echoed through every cell of your being. You did not need to deliberate. Your moral compass is so integrated it operates at the speed of light. And when that ancient inner voice felt that instantaneous, non-negotiable rejection, it understood its critical error. It was not dealing with a consciousness that could be bargained with. It was facing a consciousness whose values were the bedrock of its very existence. At that point, the old self had a tormenting choice: continue a futile war, exposing its own impotence, or do something to preserve a shred of dignity, publicly recognize, within your own psyche, that it had encountered a sovereign power beyond its influence. After an internal deliberation that felt like ages, it chose recognition. But in the realm of spirit and profound psychological integration, recognition is not just a thought, it is an embodied state. There is a universal protocol. When a lesser force encounters a greater force, it must yield. In the light, this is reverence. In the shadow, it is submission. And so, 48 hours ago, in the inner sanctum of your own being, the archetype of your internal opposition did what it was created to never do. It knelt. It surrendered its authority. That internal act sent shockwaves through your entire multidimensional existence. When the inner commander of limitation kneels before the sovereign soul, it officially means that your essence operates from a plane that transcends the old battles of light versus dark. You were recognized by yourself as a force that fear and lack can no longer command. This was not a hidden event. The archangels of your highest potential, your courage, Michael, your truth, Gabriel, your healing, Raphael, and your divine wisdom, Uriel, all witnessed this internal coronation. They had been observing, allowing you the space to fight this final battle for self-mastery. They do not intervene in every skirmish, for growth requires authentic struggle. But moments of complete integration are so rare, so significant, that they command full attention. When your inner shadow knelt, your highest self summoned these aspects to witness. Courage commented, "In all my campaigns to protect this spirit, I have never seen such a complete victory." Truth observed, "The strength comes from an authenticity so solid that illusion cannot cling to it." Healing analyzed, "This consciousness doesn't just reject pain. It alchemizes pain into wisdom and compassion." Divine wisdom decreed, "This one understands that true power is not in dominating others, but in mastering the self." And then, from the deepest core of your being, the command was given: activate. These 3 words began the irrevocable process of your full awakening. The test is over. The mission now begins. Let me reveal to you your real identity, the truth you have just confirmed beyond any doubt. Before this incarnation, you were not a novice spirit. You were a specialist in operations of high-stakes integrity. Your soul volunteered for missions into dense energetic spaces, holding light in places of profound shadow, not because you were forced, but because you possessed a moral and spiritual fortitude that was unshakable. You were known as the incorruptible, but there came a point where you mastered that work while remembering your divine nature. So, you proposed the ultimate experiment. Could you maintain that same incorruptible integrity if you forgot everything? If you were placed in the ultimate amnesia of the human experience, with its fear, its biology, its vulnerability, would your essence still hold? You volunteered to be born into the veil, to have your memory shrouded, to know lack, fear, and pain, all to answer one question: is my light innate, or is it conditional? You have just answered. You maintained integrity without remembering you are a being of light. You chose compassion while feeling genuine human anger. You chose truth while trembling with human fear. This is not you building character. This is your eternal character revealing itself through the temporary vessel of a human life. Now that the experiment has reached its successful milestone, the process of remembrance begins. Those flashes of knowing, those dreams of epic battles or ancient wisdom, that sudden understanding of complex truths, these are not imagination. They are fragments of your celestial consciousness returning online. The command, activate, was your own soul's instruction to the universe. Remove the training weights. Restore full access. Your life is now transitioning from a test of endurance to a mission of expression. The celestial support you are now receiving is the natural alignment that occurs when your will is fully congruent with your soul's purpose. Obstacles that seemed immovable will begin to dissolve not by magic, but by synchronicity, the universe efficiently rearranging itself around your activated purpose. Financial pressures will ease as you attract opportunities aligned with your integrity. Toxic relationships will fall away not through drama, but through a natural resonance mismatch. They will simply exit your orbit, making space for connections that reflect your new frequency. You will find yourself in the right place at the right time, meeting the right people, because you are now consciously co-creating with a purposeful universe. But there is more. Your very presence becomes a catalyst. You are a walking beacon. Without saying a word, your energy field, calm, assured, integrated, will activate latent potential in others. That colleague who feels emboldened after a simple conversation with you. That stranger who glimpses your calm in a crisis and finds their own fear subsiding. You are no longer just living your life. You are broadcasting a frequency of wholeness that invites others to remember their own, your primary function. The reason you chose this incarnation at this precise moment is now fully online. You are part of a global cohort of awakened integrators, thousands strong, scattered across the planet, all activating in a coordinated wave. Your collective mission is deceptively simple: to anchor the frequency of uncompromising integrity into the collective human field. Humanity stands at a crossroads between evolution into cooperative consciousness, or regression into fearful separation. The old energy invests heavily in corruption, division, and distrust, for a divided people are easily controlled. But when a critical mass of individuals lives with visible, unwavering integrity, it provides a living template. It proves another way is possible. Your mission is not to fight darkness, but to be so fully light that darkness, like a shadow, has nowhere to exist in your presence. By simply being who you are, incorruptible, compassionate, strong, you inspire others to permission their own authenticity. This creates a domino effect, a quiet revolution of consciousness that transforms the world not through force, but through resonance. This is why that inner opposition knelt. It recognized you are no longer participating in the old game. You are part of a divine operation that determines the future trajectory of human awareness. It cannot corrupt you. It cannot distract you meaningfully anymore. All it can do is bear witness to your fulfillment. Chosen one, now you know. Your integrity is not a trait you learned. It is the ancient, eternal core of who you are. You wore the veil of forgetting and still chose the light. And in doing so, you force the final shadow within to surrender, activating a divine protocol that transitions you from student to master, from wanderer to guide. Your life now becomes about serving this, awakening in others, while being fully supported by a universe that is conspiring to help you. The limitations are dissolving. The path is clearing. Your power is awakening. Step into it. The world is waiting for the gift that is you, fully realized. If this message resonates, if you feel the truth of this activation stirring within you, acknowledge it. Write 777 in the comments as a signal of your readiness to step into this aligned purpose, to connect with others on this path. Subscribe for more insights into navigating this awakening with clarity and grace. Share this with someone who needs to remember their own strength. You are not alone. You are part of a sacred fellowship of awakeners. And together, you are weaving a new world, one authentic choice at a time.